I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational, but that just wouldn't be our style.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it.
SportsTownChicago.com. Lombard, part of the Be On Air network and available on the TuneIn app.
Hell yeah.
Broadcast home for your Windy City Bulls and the Chicago Dogs. We're in a league of our own. Now, here's your SportsTownChicago.com scoreboard update.
At 5 o'clock on Tuesday, November 26th, 2024, I'm your host, Mike Napolitano, with your SportsTownChicago.com update powered by the Illinois Media School. If you are interested in a career in media, go to beonair.com. The Bulls take the court tonight, right as this show ends at 6 p.m. in Washington to face the Wizards. Washington is 2-13 on the season, and 1-6 at home in Capital One Arena. This matchup tonight is also an NBA Cup matchup. The NBA in-season tournament is wrapping up its round robin right around the holidays. And the Bulls are fourth in Group C with a 1-1 record after losing 144-126 to the Cavaliers, but then getting the win over Atlanta 136-122 for Chicago's first ever NBA Cup win. The Bulls' final matchup in this Group C will be on Friday against the defending NBA final champions, the Boston Celtics, who are currently 15-3. The Bulls are 7-11 on the regular season and will be without Patrick Williams and Lonzo Ball for this game tonight. But per Chams Chandria and Ramona Shelburne of ESPN, Ball is eyeing a return tomorrow against the Magic in Orlando. Tip-off tonight is at 6 p.m., as I mentioned, and you can watch all the action on Chicago Sports Network or on the radio at AM 670 The Score. This has been your SportsTownChicago.com update brought to you by the Illinois Media School. If you're interested in a career in media, go to beonair.com.
To center for Taves. You got to break away. Taves to win the game. Hawks win. Hawks win. Jonathan Taves. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. Call your sons. Call your daughters. Call your friends. Call your neighbors. Mark Burley has a perfect game going to the ninth. Trying to get open. Fires away. Fire. It's over. The Bulls win at the buzzer. Wise makes the catch. What a play by Wise. Mercy. He goes. One to go. Takes a Cade. 2-on-1. Hudson back to point. Upper shot. Open. Chicago with the lead. The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship, and it's their second three-peat. Alexei. Yes. 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 Yes! History! To the net, they score! It's it! They score! The Hawks win the Stanley Cup! The Hawks win the Stanley Cup! A ground ball past Jenks up the middle of the infield. Uribe has it. He throws. Out! Out! A White Sox winner and a world championship! The White Sox have won the World Series and they're mobbing each other on the field! Binnington Kurashev plays the rebound for Bedard down low. Bedard! The cross-style scores! Unbelievable! Connor Bedard! Dude, that was insane.
Back for another Tuesday and another hour full of Chicago sports. Whether you want to hear it or not, we're bringing you all of the Chicago sports news. But before I jump right into the Bears, let's talk about where you can find me and Illinois Media School, as well as SportsTownChicago.com. Myself, I am on X. That's Mike Napolitano, Mike_Napolitano on Instagram, and Mike Napolitano5 on Snapchat. SportsTownChicago.com and the Illinois Media School are on X and Instagram, so you can find them there. Well, it was another interesting week for the Bears. I've got nothing to wear here to this show. When you're seeing me on camera, I always want to make sure that I'm, dressed in something that fits the theme of the week. And considering how many weeks in a row Chicago sports have gone without successful winning teams, I figured, yeah, black was appropriate, just as dark as the soul of any Chicago sports fan these days. As we jump into Bears coverage, it was Bears and Vikings. This one was another very close game for the Bears, this Bears team, and it was nice to see that Chicago battled in the first or the final quarter. That's kind of been the Bears' MO all year, all season, is that they are this fourth quarter team, but it'd be nice to see them start a game on time. Well, this time they did. Chicago battled in the first quarter, earning, get this, their first lead in the first quarter all season. All season. That's unbelievable. Have a listen to this Bears touchdown to start the game.
Gets the carry. Johnson has his 6th rushing touchdown of the year, and the Bears take the lead.
So the Bears take the lead, but en route to that lead, there was an amazing 30-yard reception by DeAndre Swift on the off-footed lob from Caleb Williams along the sideline. If you get a chance, I suggest you go back and watch this one. It was amazing. Take a listen.
Pressure comes. Gets away from Van Ginkel. Still under pressure. Floats it down the sideline. And somehow Swift finds it.
Those clips are per the NFL broadcast on Fox. And yeah, that was, Caleb Williams was channeling his inner Patrick Mahomes on that one, because that was a heck of a throw. We've seen him do that a number of times, throwing from his off foot as he is running to the sidelines. I don't want to see him do that a lot, though, because it means he's scrambling, and we're going to get to a point later in the game where he didn't look so good in the pocket and had all the time in the world. But knowing that Caleb Williams can make those throws, can convert on some of those plays, the building blocks are there. That is a good takeaway from this. And the fact that the Bears had a lead in the first quarter. But it didn't last long, as it took the Vikings only 3 plays to march back down the field, 67 yards to be exact, and tie this game up 59 seconds later. That was it. Well, it was nice while it lasted. Listen to the Vikings' incredible 45-yard pass from Sam Darnold that was caught by Jordan Addison, and that same connection found the end zone on the very next play.
5. Darnold with time. He wants to go deep for Addison, and it is caught inside the 5 at the 2. Jordan Addison. 3 receivers. The single setback is Akers. Jefferson in motion. Play action. Darnold surveys, finds Addison in the end zone. He plucks it for 6.
So the Vikings tie this game up. And there was, I'm going to jump to the end of the game, because there was a quote from head coach Matt Eberflus about why the Bears threw their challenge flag, why Eberflus himself specifically threw the challenge flag after that 69-yard play, because of the fact that it was, quote, explosive, because of the fact that just have a listen to this nonsense.
First of all, I threw the challenge flag because it was an explosive. It's 69 yards, and our defense did a wonderful job of stopping them, there for a field goal. I was really pleased with that part of it. But again, when that's an explosive there, we want to make sure that we want to throw that flag. Again, I understand, sideline and all that stuff, cameras and all that, but they've done a good job of replay assisting, coming in and working with that. But again, I think it's always warrants a challenge when you got that big of a gain. If it was 6 yards, no one would care. If it was 15 yards, I don't think you would care. But 70 yards, it's worth it, even if we don't have the best look that we want to have. Man.
I have so many questions to the quote here, this is unfortunately a real quote per Barstool Chicago. First of all, why don't you have the best look at something? You're an NFL team. You have all the camera angles. You have coaching dedicated to this. Also, why are you just going to waste your challenge? Lose a timeout. You're saying you're just going to throw the flag willy-nilly anytime a team gets a 70-yard pass on you? What? That's not coaching. That's just trying to save your behind because your defense didn't come up. Also, in the same quote, he said, I thought our defense did a nice job. Specifically, the play that you're talking about is the defense not doing a nice job, letting them get down the field with a 70-yard pass. And your only other thought is to then throw a challenge flag out there? I mean, you might as well have thrown the challenge flag out before this game even started. If you're just going to waste it like that, if you're just going to lose it, you might as well have started the game with just 2 timeouts. You're hurting your own team. This is not coaching. This is just utter nonsense because it was explosive. That was the only adjective he could use. It was an explosive, he said. What? I'm just, this is, this Bears team frustrates me, and it's because of the fact that there is potential to have star power on this team, and the coaching and the front office just make every wrong move in order to hide that star talent, get that star talent injured. We talked in the early goings of this season about how Caleb Williams was not protected basically at all. And now that maybe he is, his offense isn't given proper opportunities because they don't have the right timeouts when it comes to, getting into the red zone towards the end of the game. I mean, you look at last week against the Green Bay Packers, the Bears could have run one more play with 35 seconds on the clock. They could have run 2 more had they had at least 1 more timeout. They were out of timeouts. Well, they had the 1 left, and that was in order to call a timeout so you can get your kicking team out there to kick the field goal. But if the game wasn't mismanaged to begin with, things like this don't happen. I'm just saying. The Bears would have to respond, and they almost did if it wasn't for a Keenan Allen toe being ruled out of bounds. It was the right call, but it found Keenan Allen out of bounds, so the call was reversed, and the Bears would settle for a field goal once again to regain the lead.
Allen in motion towards the bottom of your screen on 3rd down. Williams will throw down the sideline looking for Keenan Allen. He makes the catch. Did he toe tap them both? The officials say yes. Rule the catch on the field. They had enough to overturn and say out of bounds with that 2nd foot. Now you see it on your screen. The call during review was reversed. And it's blocked. 2nd straight blocked field goal for Santos. Brian Asamoah weaving with the return out near midfield at the 47.
So another Bears field goal attempt blocked, as you heard in the clip from Fox, the 2nd in a row dating back to last week. You also saw, if you were able to watch the clip, that Rome Odunze was actually telling his offense to hurry up because he was pretty sure Keenan Allen's toe was out of bounds. He wanted to get the Bears on that line so that the Vikings couldn't challenge and the next play could happen. The Bears could continue to march down the field. As I said, instead they settle for a field goal attempt, and 2 in a row for Cairo Santos are blocked. This was another instance of the line not doing their job in order to allow for that kick to have time to make it up there. Now, the Packers kick that Cairo Santos had at the end of the game, that wasn't high enough. That should have been higher. Maybe you can make that same argument here against the Vikings, but both times the line has allowed players to cut through gaps and block kicks. This is the same line, even though it's special teams. This is the same line, majority of them, that are on the Bears' offensive line or on the defense. There are holes. That means on both sides of your game. And that's not good. I'm just going to leave it there. You can make your decision on whether or not you think that that line should stay intact for next season. Minnesota had taken the lead and extended it by an extra score, but with the score at 24-10, the Bears would start to chip away. There was a screen pass to DJ Moore on 2nd and 7, and he is in the house for 6. The Bears would try and fail on the 2-point conversion, so the score would remain 24-16. Have a listen to the Fox broadcast on the next Bears scoring opportunity.
Again, out to Moore. Blockers at the 5. Moore in for a Chicago touchdown. Williams looking, throwing for the back corner, and Keenan Allen, the pass incomplete.
So another time in which the Bears would go for 2 and it wouldn't work. Another time where the Bears would throw a screen pass. Too many screen passes from this offense, I will say. There was a screen pass on 3rd and 11 in the first quarter. You have to go 11 yards. Why are you throwing it behind the line of scrimmage? Not smart. In the fourth quarter, with under 2 minutes to go, Bears trailing 27-16. The Bears' DeAndre Carter returns a punt 55 yards to get Chicago to the Minnesota 40. And the final full drive for the Bears was actually a thing of beauty. This is where the positives come into play. Let's have a listen to the entire final drive. It doesn't take long, but the incredible plays in which the Bears drove down the field to bring this game within a field goal.
DeAndre Carter from the 5-yard line. Carter looking for an opening. Finds one. Carter across the 40. Breaks the tackle. Carter across midfield. Trying to find a little redemption. And he's to the Vikings' 40-yard line. Williams on 4th and 3. Odunze able to hang on through contact. Bynum and Murphy sandwich him at the 19, but it's a first down. On 3rd and 3. Williams looking, throws it short. It's caught. Johnson to the 1. Bears line it up on 1st and goal. Williams, pressure coming. Williams ducks away. On the roll, Williams throws. Open in the back of the end zone. It is caught. The touchdown by Keenan Allen. Williams with pressure throws. It is caught by DJ Moore. 2 points on the board. 3-point game. And it'll come down to an onside kick.
So, a 2-point conversion for the Bears that does work, as you heard from the Fox NFL broadcast. But that drive by the Bears was actually a thing of beauty. As I said, that was actually the Bears offense locking in and getting the job done in the final minutes. This is a fourth quarter team. Unfortunately, it is not a first, second, or third quarter team, but it is a fourth quarter team. And then it comes down to an onside kick that is touched by a Minnesota player before it can go a full 10 yards, but the kick is recovered by the Bears. Have a listen.
Nobody's had more practice than Minnesota. And that one, ball is loose. Was it touched? The Bears say they haven't. Was it touched first by Minnesota?
So you got to be alert, right? Look at that formation. All 5 guys right there, legal formation. Watch number 24.
Oh, it went off the foot of Munt. Johnny Munt's foot caught it.
So you hear from the NFL broadcast on Fox that it was Johnny Munt's foot that kicked that ball back to the Bears. They recover. But the job's not done. 21 seconds to go in the fourth, and you still need to get yourselves in field goal range. Caleb Williams said, no problem. He finds DJ Moore to get the Bears within that field goal distance, and would all come down to a Cairo Santos kick again.
Williams stepping up over the middle. It is caught. Down goes Moore. Clock running. 12 seconds. A 48-yard try. One block today. Good snap. Good hold. Good kick. Overtime in Chicago.
Overtime in Chicago. Beautiful words to hear at that point of the game, especially with the blocked kicks all before. Cairo Santos was fired up after making this one, but I want to go back. A beautiful, beautiful play diagrammed by Caleb Williams and DJ Moore. You saw on the broadcast the first down range, but also the green line for the field goal range. And DJ Moore found himself wide open in there, and a bullet from Caleb Williams gets that ball in a clutch way into the receiver's hands, and that is an amazing reception by DJ Moore. The entire day, it had been the Caleb Williams and Keenan Allen connection, and I think the Minnesota defense was looking at Keenan Allen on that play, but instead, Caleb Williams goes back to DJ Moore, which you love to see. Unfortunately, overtime would not go the Bears' way. Caleb Williams was sacked 15 seconds into a play.
Does he finally have a positive memory, a positive cataloging of one of those learning experiences here?
Good protection. Nobody open. Williams buying all kinds of time. Where's he going to go? Nowhere. He takes the sack back at the 20. Jonathan Grenard gets to him for the second time today.
I mean, you heard nothing from that Fox NFL broadcast for a couple seconds because nobody knew what was happening, why he was just standing there. I understand there probably weren't any receivers that looked open down the field, but why he decided to step even further back in the pocket. He had the protection of the blockers this time. I counted down. The play started at the 9:30 mark, basically. The ball was snapped. Sorry, the 9:20 mark, the ball was snapped. Caleb Williams was sacked at the 9:05 mark. 15 seconds to get rid of the ball. You have to make a decision faster than that. Unbelievable. Minnesota would walk down the field in their first possession of overtime and score a 29-yard field goal to win the game.
And 29 yards for the win. Good snap. Good hold. Good kick. And the Minnesota Vikings win it in overtime. 30-27.
So nothing new in Chicago. Just bad coaching, bad play calling, a team that just barely fights towards the end in order to get themselves in a position where they could maybe tie the game. They do this time, and then potentially win the game. They don't. But I mentioned that interesting quote after the fact by Matt Eberflus. Honestly, interesting is the wrong word. I am so disinterested in whatever he had to say in that quote. I played it for you so that you had to lose that many seconds of your precious time that I did listening to that stupidity. Caleb Williams, he is the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Fans want to like him. I like him. I think he will be a very talented player, whether it's here or, like we've seen in most cases in Chicago, elsewhere. But Caleb Williams, when he was talking about the new offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown, mentioned Thomas Brown's aura, which is a word that the kids are using these days. It goes along with Riz and all this other crap. Aura. He didn't have a better adjective to describe what Thomas Brown brings to this team. Now, I know it's a very, very small sample size. We've only seen Thomas Brown in 2 games, but Thomas Brown, quote, Thomas Brown has a certain aura to him that allows you to play free.
I really do think it's just how he is has helped. It's just his I don't want to use this word, but aura, I guess. He's just he has a certain aura to him that he just allows you to play free. To be honest with you.
So I like that he saved himself and said he didn't want to use that word. The playing free part, that's good. That's a good thing. That's what we want to see, because I think Caleb Williams has the quarterback mind and knowledge in order to be able to play free. We've seen him call a couple of his own plays, ask for his own team to go for it on 4th down, because he has that confidence and trusts in his offense to get that 4th down. But my goodness, we need to get in Chicago, we need just a better team all around. I don't know how else to put it at this point. You need better coaching. You need better play calling. You need a quarterback that isn't just going to use some fancy words that he found on Instagram earlier that day. And by fancy words, I mean just pure brain rot garbage. The injured list for this week, because it is much more important because the Bears are playing on Thursday. Safety Elijah Hicks and center Ryan Bates were listed as questionable as of this morning, ahead of arguably the Bears' toughest matchup of the season. The 10-1 Detroit Lions. This game will be at Ford Field in Detroit on Thanksgiving at 11:30 a.m. on CBS. The Bears are 4-7 and will play the 3rd straight game against a divisional rival. They are 0-2 in this stretch, losing 20-19 to the Green Bay Packers on a missed field goal attempt with 3 seconds to go, and then 30-27 in overtime against the Minnesota Vikings this past Saturday after their field goal in overtime was good. The Bears have lost 5 straight games going into this holiday matchup, so not a lot to be thankful for. But you can watch this game before the tryptophan kicks in at 11:30 a.m. Thursday on CBS, or listen on ESPN AM 1000. I should also mention that quote from Caleb Williams came from Chicago Sports Network. It's where you can watch the Bulls, Blackhawks, and White Sox eventually. I forgot the 3rd team that they had in there. But not the Bears. As I said, they will be on CBS. Hey, let's get into some Bulls basketball here on Mike on the Mic so that we can maybe at least talk about a win. Spoiler alert. Bulls basketball right here on Mike on the Mic.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Mike. What day is it, Mike?
No, dude, it's Tuesday. It's time for Mike on the Mic.
Woo-hoo!
Right here on Sportstown Chicago and Twitch.
Off tape!
This is your home for sports. SportsTownChicago.com.
Joe's Hot Dogs has been around since 1953, but I promise it's not old news. You don't have to like hot dogs to like Joe's on Plainfield Road in Joliet. Italian beef, hot dogs, shakes, and sides. My family's had a relationship with Joe's Hot Dogs for 3 generations. Golden fries with a tad bit of salt and the perfect amount of crunch come in a bag as big as your hand. And that's just small. For more on the menu, visit joeshotdogsjoliet.com, bringing that classic Chicago flavor to the suburbs. That's Joe's Hot Dogs across from CVS on Plainfield Road in Joliet.
At the football game, Jim shows the telltale signs of being wasted. He starts flexing for the camera. He refers to his muscles as gunboats. He screams, "How's this for a halftime show?" Jim streaks the field.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many to drive. But what if you've had just one too many to drive? Never underestimate just a few. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Ad Council, and this station.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and Windy City News Radio.
The Illinois Center for Broadcasting is now the Illinois Media School. We've been an institution in the Chicagoland area now for 30 years. Because the broadcasting world is always changing, so are we. Not only are we teaching radio and television production, but now you can learn all aspects of the media industry, like web design. You can even specialize in TV or film, sports broadcasting, and even sales. No matter where you are in the Chicagoland area, we have a campus near you. The Illinois Media School. Be on TV, be on radio, beonair.com.
Maybe that was money. Tell me that wasn't money.
Yo, check us out. We are the go-to guys. I'm your boy Space.
I'm your boy MC.
Check us out every Thursday
from 4 to 5 p.m.
We spitting all facts, all sports, all day.
Yes, sir. Who else you gonna go to in the clutch?
Lillard, long range three, and it's good!
Keeping you up to date with all the latest sports news.
We are
the go-to guys.
Where else you gonna get all your sports news from?
You know,
SportsTownChicago.com.
St. Patrick's Day, the only day of the year that it's okay to not boo the Boston Celtics.
I will show you mercy.
SportsTownChicago.com.
What's up, sports fans? I'm Mike Napolitano, and you're listening to Mike on the Mic right here on SportsTownChicago.com and the TuneIn Radio app. Now back to the show. Bulls basketball has been up and down recently. We started out talking about how they were struggling to stay at 500. Well, they're a little bit below it now at 7-11, but let's take a look at how they got there. Wednesday night was unfortunately the Bulls falling to the Bucks up in Milwaukee. It was a 122-106 final. Zach LaVine led the way in both points and assists with 27 and 6 respectively, but it was Giannis Antetokounmpo with 41 points for this Milwaukee team. He added 9 rebounds, which led his side of the match as well. Damian Lillard had 10 assists. Torrey Craig for the Bulls, he led in rebounds, with 6, but it's not enough for the Bulls to get the win. They did, however, beat the Bucks in their first matchup. That was back on October 25th. That was a 133-122 final. This time they give up 122, but are only able to score 106. So thus far, these two teams have split in their in their 2 matchups that they've played. There are 4 in total this season. Then the Bulls did go back home, came back down from Milwaukee, and this was a matchup with the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Bulls went to Atlanta a couple weeks ago and beat them in that game. This time, the Bulls would take a second win over this struggling Hawks team. Bulls would creep up to 7-10, which is what the Hawks were sitting at. So these are 2 very similar teams. However, this game mattered a little bit more. This was the NBA Cup group play, or the round robin that is leading up to the in-season tournament and championship. This marks the Bulls' first ever NBA Cup win. They went 0-4 last year in round robin against the Celtics, Magic, Nets, and Raptors. They had a 48-point deficit. And the Bulls this year are now 1-1 in group play after losing to Cleveland, but beating Atlanta here. They have a -4-point differential. And we're going to get right back into NBA Cup talk in just a moment because it will return tonight. But Saturday, this was the Bulls hosting the Memphis Grizzlies at 7 p.m. That was on NBA TV for all to see. Unfortunately, though, I should mention, this whole week has basically been broadcast nationally. The Bulls were against the Bucks on ESPN, so that was a prime Wednesday night game. This one didn't go the Bulls' way either. They almost gave up 150 points again. I feel like we're saying that at least once a week for this Bulls team. 142 points given to the Grizzlies, who are 10-7 after this one, 4-4 on the road. So not a great showing for the Grizzlies, and yet they still destroy the Bears. The Bears, the Bulls, same old story here in Chicago, though. 131 is what the Bulls put up. That was from Zach LaVine. Mostly he had 29 points in this one. Nikola Vukovic had 8 rebounds, 4 defensive, 4 offensive. And Josh Giddey finished with 8 assists. He's been in that assist column heavily for the Bulls this year. Those have been the main 3. Points is Zach LaVine mostly. Nikola Vukovic leading in most rebounds. And then Josh Giddey in assists. So at least it's a little bit more spread around this year for the Bulls, but they're still not getting the results that they want to see. On the Grizzlies side of things, it was a very familiar name, Scottie Pippen Jr. He was trying to destroy his dad's former team, and he does so. 30 points. He also added 10 assists to lead Memphis in both of those categories. And then it was Santi Aldama, who had 10 rebounds. 7 of those were defensive. The Bulls are now 2-6 at home. Something about these United Center teams that we talked about last week and the week before that, playing at home, it's like the United Center has been a curse for them this year. So hopefully they can get back into their winning ways. But it'll be tough with a big injury list. Patrick Williams is out with a foot injury. He's been ruled out for tonight's game against the Wizards. He should be back fairly soon, I would hope. Adama Sanogo is also out with a knee injury, although I believe he was being sent down to the G League with the Windy City Bulls in order to rehab there. It's not listed here, but he is listed out for Tuesday's game against the Wizards, and I believe that would mean he's still staying with Windy City. Julian Phillips is also day-to-day with an illness. He is probable for tonight's game. Talen Horton-Tucker is also probable for tonight's game due to a right thumb sprain that had kept him out. Lonzo Ball has a wrist injury, and he is doubtful for tonight, but per reports from ESPN, it looks as though Lonzo Ball could return to the Bulls tomorrow as they play the Orlando Magic. Tonight's game is at 6 p.m. in Washington at Capital One Arena to face the Wizards. Tomorrow, the Bulls will continue their eastern-southern road trip. They will go even further south and play the Orlando Magic at 6 p.m. Tonight's game against the Wizards is an NBA Cup game. So the Bulls will look to take on a 2-13 Wizards team in order to secure another NBA Cup victory. If they can finish 2-2, they may have a shot at this. It's going to be tough to go 3-2 because Friday we'll be back at home in the United Center. Once again, another NBA Cup game. This will be against the defending champions, the Boston Celtics, at 7 p.m. Their 4th and final NBA Cup game. They will have to knock off the champs at home. That might be the only advantage for this Bulls team, or disadvantage, as I just said. Playing in the United Center has been tough for them all year. But then Monday will be at home against the Brooklyn Nets at 7 p.m. All games are on Chicago Sports Network. But before we look too far at the future for the Bulls and this NBA Cup in-season tournament, we have to talk about what is going on in the sports world today.
Back to your home for sports. SportsTownChicago.com. Scoreboard update.
At 5:45 on Tuesday, November 26th, I'm your host, Mike Napolitano, with your SportsTownChicago.com update, powered by the Illinois Media School. If you are interested in a career in media, go to beonair.com. Blackhawks forward Jason Dickinson was back on the ice today for practice after taking a maintenance day yesterday. Connor Bedard was placed back into the center role at practice today, centering the first line of Taylor Hall and Philip Kurashev. The Blackhawks resume tomorrow night against Dallas at 7:30 p.m. on Chicago Sports Network, ESPN Plus, and WGN AM 720. The Stars are 13-7-0, 5-5-0 on the road this year. Chicago is 7-12-2, and 3-5-0 at home after defeating the defending champion Florida Panthers on home ice last Thursday. It's been a struggle for both the Bulls and the Blackhawks at the United Center. But if the Blackhawks are able to knock off the defending champs at home, maybe the Bulls will be able to this next week as well. That was at home ice last Thursday, but then the Blackhawks fell short in OT on the road against Philadelphia on Saturday. Connor Bedard was moved to the wing on Thursday and Saturday amidst his now 12-game goal drought. He has 6 assists in that time, but has been scoreless and the second worst player at the faceoff dot in the league since he has stepped into the league. This has been your SportsTownChicago.com update brought to you by the Illinois Media School. If you're interested in a career in media, go to beonair.com. What's up, everyone? This is Mike Napolitano, and you're listening to Mike on the Mic right here on SportsTownChicago.com and the TuneIn Radio app.
This is your home for sports. Red Left! SportsTownChicago.com.
Take that exit and get to the Southern Cafe, home of the Nasty Biscuit on Roselle Road in Roselle. Get over there and try the chicken fried chicken biscuit made with the Southern Cafe's house-made drop biscuit with buttermilk chicken fried chicken smothered in country gravy, topped with shredded cheddar and crumbled hickory smoked bacon. I always say that when you go to the Southern Cafe, you come out with 2 meals with a heaping amount of food they serve you in every meal. I love to go to a place with outdoor seating. The Southern Cafe has a great outdoor seating area to help social distance, and I get to enjoy my breakfast outdoors. Open 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. to give you plenty of time to grab an amazing breakfast or lunch. Now get your butt over to the Southern Cafe on Roselle Road.
Hello?
It's speed walking day.
Dorothy? You're breaking up.
Did I mention we'd be slowing down when we pass the court where those fine brothers play ball?
I heard that.
Reduce your risk of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. Get active, eat right, and maybe even run into Mr. Right. Isn't sisterhood beautiful? For more information, go to everydaychoices.org. Brought to you by the American Cancer Society, the American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association, the Ad Council, and this station.
Alert! Alert! Be gone, maxed out credit cards, overdue loans, suffocating interest rates, and relentless collection agencies. If your credit rating is making you and others around you cringe, there's only one thing to do, and that's to turn to the professionals at Creative Credit Solutions. Even if your credit is less than perfect, we'll help you get back on track. You can do it, and we can help. Call today or visit creativecreditsolutions.net for your free credit check report.
Blow the whistle on SportsTownChicago.com. Mondays and Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m. as we talk NFL.
The game plan was really sound.
It's a quarterback league. It has been. It still is.
Franchise-defining quarterbacks.
College football.
Will Jim Harbaugh make it through the season as Michigan's head coach?
Some more Big Ten talk.
And here's some things you wouldn't expect.
I would have never expected that.
Get all of that and more on Blow the Whistle on SportsTownChicago.com.
Testing. Is this thing on? Hello? Can you hear me? Guys? Somebody help. Hello?
Now back to Mike on the Mic on SportsTownChicago.com and Twitch. Blackhawks hockey has been up and down just like all of the rest of Chicago sports. The Blackhawks should have had an easy matchup last Tuesday night at home against the Anaheim Ducks, who have struggled this year. They're 500 at best. They were 7-8-2 coming into this game in Chicago. Jason Dickinson was the number 1 star of the game with both Chicago goals, and Bedard added with the 3rd star of the game awards with 2 primary assists in this one. So he factored into both Chicago goals. However, the Blackhawks gave up 3 in this game. One of those was to Alex Killorn, who also added an assist and took home the 2nd star of the game. The Blackhawks were not the better team in this one, despite having the number 1 star of the game and the number 3 star of the game. But they lost the lead. They had a lead. They've struggled when it comes to playing with leads. Jason Dickinson scores basically at the end of the first period, but Pavel Mintyukov adds to the scoring with the Ducks' first goal of the game, ties things up just under a minute to go before the first intermission. That took the sails out of the Blackhawks for a little bit, But almost 4 minutes into the second period, the Hawks find themselves back on the board. It was basically a carbon copy. Connor Bedard to Jason Dickinson. The Blackhawks take a 2-1 lead, but 2 third-period goals, one from Alex Killorn, that was the game-tying goal, and he got the assist on the game-winning goal to Leo Carlsson, and the Ducks shut the door on the Blackhawks in the United Center. That's painful. That is really painful. That's an easy layup home game that the Blackhawks should win. In between this time, the Winter Classic jerseys were announced. I should also mention, going back to Bears talk, that Bears had some interesting uniforms going on. They had their throwback jerseys with the helmets on Sunday against the Vikings. I do like the helmets. I do like those jerseys. I, in fact, own one of those jerseys with the striping. The socks were a little too striped for me. A little much. Kind of makes the Bears look like the Bengals. And if you don't look closely at the distinction between orange and red, kind of makes the Bears look like clowns, which in some cases, I'll just leave that there. The Winter Classic jerseys for the Blackhawks, though, are beautiful. That will be the first time that the Blackhawks are wearing red outdoors. It was the jerseys that did leak months ago. So if you saw them when we talked about them the first time on this show, those are, in fact, the ones that the Blackhawks are going with. The tomahawk has been moved down to the elbow on the stripes. The stripes on the Blackhawks main jersey have been moved up below the crest, or behind the crest. The crest is not a retro hawk head, which I'm actually okay with because there's been a lot of that going on. I think we've paid homage to all of those former jerseys and the history of the logo in others. It looks good with the current logo on there and the Chicago Blackhawks around the crest with the 4 Chicago City flag stars. So this will be a fun one. I wish that the Blues were going to go with an all blue jersey in order to do a color rush. They are going to go with a white away jersey. But this game is at Wrigley Field on New Year's Eve, not New Year's Day. Usually the Winter Classic's on New Year's Day. This time it's on New Year's Eve. That is 4 p.m. on Tuesday, December 31st against St. Louis. This will be the second game at Wrigley Field, January 1st, 2009 versus Detroit. If you remember that one, that was a 6-4 Detroit win, although I think at one point in that game it was 6-1. I just remember it not going very well for the Blackhawks. Thursday night, getting back into the schedule here, was the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers coming to town to face the Blackhawks. And if you thought that the Ducks game should have been a win and a layup, you were thinking the opposite here. However, the Panthers were 1-3-0 in their last 4 games going into this one. And Teuvo Teravainen gets the scoring started with a tally on the power play. So the Blackhawks go up 1-0 by the end of the first. Bedard was moved to the wing in this game amidst that 10-game scoring drought at that point, but marked this game as number 11. That's the unfortunate part. The fortunate part is that Craig Smith doubled the Blackhawks lead with assists from Pat Maroon and Nick Foligno, and then Sam Reinhart answered for the Panthers. Aaron Ekblad and Gustav Forsling, former Blackhawk, they get the assists, so they cut the lead in half. However, it is Nick Foligno with an empty netter to seal the deal. That one was unassisted from the captain with 1 minute to go in the third period, and the Blackhawks knock off the defending champs and improve to 7-12-1, 3-5 at home. The Panthers 12-7-1, kind of the reverse of the Blackhawks record. They are 6-4 on the road. Then it was off to Philadelphia for a Saturday noon game against the Flyers. Bedard did set a record for being the 4th Blackhawk in history to record 50 assists as a teenager with those 2 assists on Tuesday night. However, they were looking for a goal in this one with Connor Bedard on the wing one more time, and no production from him. The Flyers take this one in overtime with a beautiful overtime goal from the Russian. We'll get into that. But first, I want to highlight Peter Mrazek's phenomenal save in this one that kept the Blackhawks in a tied 2-2 game late in the third period.
Connect. Pinballs across. Mrazek back in position just in time. Ristolainen wraparound stop by Mrazek. Dives back, cuts it off. On the flyer. Chances. Here's one. Ristolainen for the tie. Mrazek. Another ID.
So Mrazek putting in yet another bid for save of the year as he dives across the crease and just is able to stop that wraparound opportunity with his paddle and his blocker hand and shut the door. But it is Matev Michkov's overtime backdoor setup that ends this one. It was set up by Travis Konechny. So the Flyers take the extra point in this one. Blackhawks fall to 7-12-2. They are 4-7-2 on the road. Flyers are 9-10-2, 5-6 at home. Well, still no Seth Jones for the Blackhawks, as it looks as though he is going to remain on that injured list for some time, which will hurt this team. You also heard me talk about how Jason Dickinson is listed as day-to-day. He was actually taken off of the injured list just today after I broke that news. So it's just still Seth Jones. Andreas Athanasiou was sent down to Rockford, but he is unfortunately also out with an injury. And still no sign of Laurent Brossoit. Can we put out a wanted poster for him, because he has not started the season they thought he was going to be coming back in October, right at the start of, opening day, home opener. Not really. We are getting into December almost here, and still no Laurent Brossoit. It's reported back on November 9th that with this knee injury and the surgery that he had back in the late summer, he was supposed to come back in about 8 weeks' time. We are going on probably 16 weeks' time, and he is to remain out indefinitely. Ouch. Well, let's see what is in the future for the Blackhawks, though, even if Laurent Brossoit is not. Tomorrow night, we'll be back at the United Center for a 7:30 p.m. matchup against the Dallas Stars on ESPN+. Friday, we'll be in Minnesota at 1 p.m. And then Saturday, we'll be against the Columbus Blue Jackets back at home at 2 p.m. Monday, we'll be in Toronto. So a quick turnaround, even though it's an afternoon game, a quick turnaround for the Blackhawks, as then they have a Monday night start at 6:30 p.m. All of those games are on ESPN+. All of those games are on Chicago Sports Network, and all of those games will be on WGN AM 720. All right. That is your hockey news for the week. But we have a little bit of baseball news, unfortunately, as well as some soccer wrapping up the championship and playoff seasons. So let's get into that right here on Mike on the Mic.
This is your home for sports.
Longtime fan.
Sports is like life. SportsTownChicago.com.
What's up, Chicago? If you're ever, and I mean ever, out looking for good urban food 24/7, come down to White Palace Grill, located 1159 South Canal Street in Chicago. White Palace Grill is open 365 days a year since 1939. I personally love the steak and egg dinner, but whether you like burgers for breakfast, steak for lunch, or French toast for dinner, White Palace is the place for you. The diner is a 24-hour urban oasis. Come now, come later. Hey, come now and later. We never close at White Palace Grill, located 1159 South Canal Street in Chicago. Visit us at whitepalace.com or order with Uber Eats or Grubhub anytime, any day.
Daddy, when you look at me, I could see your wheels turning. About what am I going to be when I grow up? A major league first baseman? Maybe a point guard for a national champion.
The odds of a child becoming a professional athlete are 1 in 16,000. Far-fetched? Maybe. But did you know the odds of a child being diagnosed with autism are 1 in 166? That's right. 1 in 166. To learn the signs of autism, go to autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Go to Lux Barbershop for the best barbers and stylists in Plainfield, Illinois. I go there when I have an important event, date, or I just want to look good. The straight razor shave will have you looking fresh and smooth. Lux Barbershop is open 7 days a week. Go to Lux Barbershop for the finest barbers, stylists, braiders, and massage therapists in the southern suburbs. Check out all their daily deals on Facebook, Instagram, and luxbarbershop.com.
Hi, this is Joe Perry and Steven Tyler of Aerosmith for Red. You know, it's okay to rock and roll and party down. Just don't get in that 2,000-pound bullet when you're done and cocked. And please don't drink and drive. I'm the one that jaded you.
A reminder that friends don't let friends drive drunk. A public service message brought to you by the Ad Council, U.S. Department of Transportation, National Association of Broadcasters, and RAD.
The Chicago Dogs are back on SportsTownChicago.com. Tune in to the season opener against the Sioux City Explorers, Friday, May 28th at Impact Field in Rosemont. First pitch at 7:05 p.m. Hear all the action right here on SportsTownChicago.com.
Well, the White Sox have done it again. When you least expected it to get even worse, somehow, some way, they managed to do so. The White Sox signed right fielder Austin Slater. Now, that's not the bad news. Seems like a decent guy. Righty, 6'1", 204 pounds, 31 years old. Seems okay, right? Well, let's get into the fact that he said, quote, "The White Sox were the first team to reach out. They told me I was their top target." What? Top target? Excuse me? This is a guy who batted .209 last year. He hit 2 home runs, had 18 RBIs, and 3 stolen bases in 177 at-bats. It's not a huge sample size, so I don't want to rag on this guy too much and say that he's a bad player or he's not tip-top. But even if you're the White Sox, then even if you want to make that argument, you're going for your top target is a small sample size at best. Oh boy. Oh boy. The White Sox also made a couple other moves. They declined to tender contracts to Aniel De Los Santos and infielder Gavin Sheets. So goodbye, Gavin Sheets, right-handed pitcher in De Los Santos as well. We talked about them making a couple of transactional moves last week. They also selected the contracts of shortstop Colson Montgomery from Charlotte and right-handed pitcher Juan Carrell from Birmingham. It's kind of a couple of moves in order to shore up those players' contracts before free agency begins so that they don't get picked up by any of the Rule 5 draft informational measures, I should say, and then also so that they actually could have a home with the White Sox next year. We shall see. It depends on how spring training goes. The Cubs, on the other side of things, did similar things. They acquired right-handed pitcher Eli Morgan from Cleveland in exchange for outfielder Alfonso Rosario. They also designated infielder Patrick Wisdom and right-handed pitcher Trey Wegner for assignment. And then lastly, they acquired catcher Matt Thaiss from Los Angeles. That's the Angels, not the defending champs, for cash considerations. They also went about selecting the contracts of outfielder Owen Casey from Iowa and infielder Ben Cowles from Tennessee. They designated right-handed pitcher Adbert Alzolay and outfielder Brennan Davis for assignment. The Cubs then came to terms with Matt Thaiss and right-handed pitcher Julian Mayweather, as well as Keegan Thompson on one-year contracts. They did decline to tender contracts to Adbert Alzolay and Terry Wegenter, as well as outfielders Brandon Davis. Mike Tauchman, that was a surprise, I think, for most Cub fans that he won't be returning to this Cubs team. Well, not necessarily. They're not tendering a contract. He's a free agent. They could pick him back up, but no contract for him, as well as infielder Nick Madrigal and first baseman and third baseman Patrick Wisdom. He was kind of getting up there in age. Kind of sad to see him go for Cubs fans, but that is just the way it goes in the business of baseball. Now, we're going to get into more free agency in December when we have less moves from both of your Chicago teams to talk about, because you know they won't be doing too much in the offseason, as they usually don't. But we will get into soccer now. The MLS playoffs have been continuing on. I was really hoping on the Western side of things that LAFC would beat Seattle in order to then play the Galaxy, the other team in LA, as they defeated Minnesota. But instead, the Galaxy move on, the second seed, and the fourth seed Seattle Sounders knock off the first seed LAFC. So we will have a 2-4 matchup in two historic clubs in the MLS, the LA Galaxy and the Seattle Sounders. That will be on the 30th, Saturday at 9 p.m. You can watch that one on Apple TV. On the Eastern side of things, it was the number 4 seed Orlando who snuck into these playoffs, if you remember, it was Atlanta who snuck into these playoffs. Unfortunately, that run ends, and it's Orlando knocking them off with a 1-0 scoreline. On the other end of the bracket here in the East, it was the Battle of New York. Isn't that an Avengers thing? Yes, but also in soccer, New York City FC versus the Red Bulls of New York. Red Bull takes this game 2-0, and they move on to face Orlando. That game will also be this Saturday on Apple TV. That is the earlier game. That is a 6:30 p.m. game. Look to see the championship take place in that first week of December, but it is still to be determined. On the ladies' side of things, the NWSL Championship was this past weekend. We previewed that last week. That was Orlando as well, but this time Orlando Pride versus the Washington Spirit. And Orlando comes away with the victory, a 1-0 scoreline with Barbara Banda, the only goal scorer in the 37th minute. It's the first seed that wins it all in the NWSL, the team that eliminated your Chicago Red Stars 4-1 in the first round of these NWSL playoffs. Of course, that is the only Chicago team that will make playoffs this year. I don't count play-in rounds with the Bulls and the NBA. So that is your only successful team here in Chicago, unfortunately. The Voodoo Podcast's November episode is out now. It was released yesterday and features Jim Warfield award-winning actress Tila Halpin Moss, a.k.a. Buna Vaduva, as well as she was talking about the award-winning Hell's Gate Haunted House, as well as Mark Krasminski and Jesse Schultz of Voodoo on Vassar. You can catch that one on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and check it out. It's got a new logo specific for Thanksgiving here. WRMN's show on Saturday called On the Rise. It's 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. That is my show with The Derek. We go over Ice Hogs, Blackhawks, Wolves, Steel, Windy City Bulls, Chicago Bulls, and fantasy football. We've also had some pretty spectacular guests, and that is going to be no different this coming weekend. In the summer, we'll be covering Boomers and Cougars. And then on the Stream Sports Midwest side of things, that is Nihil Hockey with the voice of the Chicago Dogs, Aaron Schellen, as well as Eric Willowhite and Ethan Wiles. You can catch those games on YouTube. We just broadcasted 2 games from Fifth Third Arena, the practice home of your Chicago Blackhawks, this past Sunday while the Bears were getting their butts kicked The Divided Podcast is where you will find T-Lo, G-Lead, and The Derek. That is on Spotify. You can also find The Parlay on Spotify. But you can also see that one on YouTube. That's T-Lo's other podcast with Kendall Gill. You can follow me on social media, Mike Napolitano on X, Mike_Napolitano on Instagram, Mike Napolitano 5 on Snapchat. And while you're there, follow SportsTownChicago.com and the Illinois Media School. That's all of your sports news for this week. Be sure to make it back here next Tuesday for another episode. Thank you again for tuning in. I'm your host, Mike Napolitano, and this has been another edition of Mike on the Mic.
This is your home for sports.
This is the best fans in the world.
No better team. SportsTownChicago.com.
Are you ready for this? Valley View Automotive has all of the hottest SUVs you've been looking for. Enjoy a test drive and the opportunity to drive one of these powerful vehicles off the lot for half the price. Yes, half the price. Now's the time to get yourself to Valley View by car, on foot, or even by air to take advantage of this outrageous sale. You better get here quickly, because this promotion is only going on for 24 hours, and the automobiles are leaving the lot faster than you can say four-wheel drive. Valley View Automotive, a dealership you can depend on.
Hey, I'm Andy Griggs, asking you to help prevent domestic violence. Domestic violence isn't a woman's issue. It hurts all of us. Women are injured and killed every day by their husbands and boyfriends. So it's time for men to take action right now to teach boys that violence against women is wrong, to help prevent abuse before it starts. Call the Family Violence Prevention Fund at 1-800-END-ABUSE to get a free Take Action kit containing tips on what to say to boys. That's 1-800-END-ABUSE. Teach early.
Indeed is the #1 job search user with over 250 million monthly users. Indeed's priority is to help everyone in the job searching process to find a job by uploading 10 new job opportunities every 10 seconds worldwide. With Indeed, you have free access to job searches, resume uploads, and company researches. There are over 10,000 employees at Indeed that pursue to help people find the job they are looking for. They connect with millions of people to new opportunities. Go to Indeed.com and sign up for free and create a resume and let Indeed do the rest to help you on your job search.
Hey, I'm Jesus Mauricio. Be sure to tune in every Friday to listen to Zeus Off the Bat, a baseball talk show from 1 to 2 p.m. where I'll be discussing and updating you on all things about baseball, news, predictions, reactions, and more about the Cubs, Sox, and everything across the league. Happens every Friday at 1 p.m. right here on SportsTownChicago.com. Don't forget to follow and share our Twitter and Instagram with your friends at Zeus Off the Bat. Zeus Off the Bat.